Back here on Sky Sox Warmup and visiting with Sky Sox manager, our weekly visit with Rick Sweet. And first, Sweetie, happy Cinco de Mayo to you.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I don't look at that. I write down the dates, but I don't think about stuff like that. Yeah, same to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyway, it's not too surprising you didn't recognize that it was Cinco de Mayo based on the last 48 hours. It's been a pretty eventful couple of days in the Brewers organization. What are your thoughts on the managerial change up top?
Well, you always expect when the club's not playing well, you always expect something could happen. We don't worry about it too much. In this game, we've all been fired. It's part of baseball. People don't even hesitate. If you get fired, they go, "Oh, okay," shrug their shoulders and move on. They don't ask why or what happened. Usually, it's really not your fault. Ron's demise had nothing to do with his effort, with his job, with his skills, with everything he did. It's just the club wasn't playing well. You can't change 25 players, so what do? Change the guy at the top.
Well, Craig Counsell, a former Sky Sox player, takes over with no managerial experience behind him. What was your reaction?
Well, if you were to ask me who would replace Ron at that point, that's who it was. He's been. That's the big thing in baseball right now. Is you see a lot of clubs that bring in managers that have no experience, but that's not a bad thing. They usually have a veteran coaching staff. They can handle all of the ins and outs. What you want's a new voice. You want a new voice at the top with direction, and Craig has that. He's been out of the game, but he's still been in the game. He's been an assistant GM, special assistant to the GM, whatever title you want to have. He's very involved in our draft, very involved in our minor leagues, had a lot of great ideas. I think he'll do a good job.
What kind of impact, Rick, do you think this will have on your ball club?
Well, we've already made one change. Schaefer was sent down today, but that change, a change was coming. I think what it will do, and I talked to Craig today, and I took some notes. I'm going to have a meeting with our club and talk about the change of philosophy. The meeting he had with his players up there, I'm going to reiterate the things he talked about with the club up there, because my job is to adjust to what the major league manager does. I've worked for a ton of managers at AAA level. My job is to get guys ready to play for him. That means play the game Craig Counsell wants played, and the emphasis he's going to put on different things. Every manager has their things that are important to them. Now I will change our philosophy a little bit as far as making sure I'm doing the things the way Craig wants it done.
Can you share with us what some of those ideas might be?
No, not really, because it's philosophical. And basically what I mean by that, one thing I'll talk about with Craig, and that's not to say it's different than Ron, because it's, all the things are the same in baseball, but these are things that are important to Craig, and that's being a good teammate, playing the game the right way for the team, not for your own individual numbers or individual things. So I think that's the biggest thing we're going to talk about. The base running, he's big on emphasis on base running. So we're going to make sure that we really focus on the base running here, especially some of the things that are important to him, to Craig, as far as the thought process.
You've been in the game, obviously, a long time. Have you been through stuff like this before, where the manager gets fired during the season and it kind of changes things throughout the organization?
Well, yeah, and I think really the only people it'll affect will be us at the AAA level, because we have that immediate impact going up there. That's why it was important. That's why Craig called me today. I sent him a text yesterday, congratulating him, said call when you feel we need to talk, and he called today. We just got off the phone, or I just got off the phone with him. So. I think it affects us immediately the most, because I'm the one with the players that are going to go to the big leagues. So it's important that I get things, the verbiage, and make sure that I've got these guys ready to play for Craig Counsell.
Rick Sweet, my guest, Sky Sox manager here from Memphis on Sky Sox Warmup. Another tough loss for the ball club last night here in Memphis. A month in, almost into the season. What's your take on your team right now?
Well, we're not where we want to be. I much prefer having a better record. We should have a better record. I had another team meeting last night, and basically it was to tell them, I had a blast last night in that game. That was a fun game. I'm sure you called a fun game because of all the strategy, all the things that went on in the game. We just didn't execute. My job is to get these guys to execute. That's my job. So I was disappointed from the standpoint we didn't execute right. We threw to bad bases. Our base running was not good. Offensively, we had a lot of hits, didn't get a lot of runs. Poor pitch selection at times, hitting guys, walking guys. So many things that we did incorrectly in the game that would have changed that game around easily if we'd have done half of them. So, but that's why we're in the minor leagues. That's why they're down here. We need to execute better, and that was the emphasis of the meeting last night. Will continue to be the emphasis when we go out and practice today.
Well, and if it wasn't bad enough that you're off to a bad start, you're in the same division as a team that's off to a tremendous start in the Oklahoma City Dodgers. What's your thought process there?
Well, actually, I just looked at that today and thought, okay, now, but the first thing, there are 10 games ahead of us. That's the number. 10 games changed in this game with over 3 months to go. That's not what we got to do. The first thing we have to do is get back to 500. How do we get back to 500? We got to play better baseball. How do we play better baseball? We got to eliminate the mistakes we're making. How do we do that? Get our butts out there on the field and practice. And that's one thing we didn't get to do at home. We missed the last 3 or 4 days at home because we couldn't get on the field because of weather. Now we're on the road. Well, we get our time frame on the field, but we got to take advantage of it. Like we flew all day yesterday. We hit, took ground balls, took fly balls. We came here and got as much work in as we could because we didn't get much done at home.
In closing, we've had our first couple of pitch clock violations already after they've enforced the rule here the 1st of May. What's your take on the pace of game initiative?
I wasn't for it when they first came out. It's become, in a way, non-factor because it's very simple to get around. All a pitcher has to do is step off, and the clock restarts. All a hitter has to do is go time, and the clock stops. So it's become a non-factor from that standpoint. If you get called for a ball or a strike by the umpire, then you're not very smart. You haven't figured this thing out. That being said, I think it speeded up the game a little bit, and I did not think I'm not a fan of the clock because that's what I've always laughed about the other sports is you can stall. Well, now they're forcing us to stall a little bit by stepping out or stepping off the mound. That's how you get around it. It's very simple. Umpires hate it. Because it's a pain in the butt for them. And actually, I think we've had probably poorly umpired games because of the clock, because they're watching the clock instead of focusing on their jobs, quite frankly. And I think some of them have admitted to that. So, it's a pain in the butt, but it's something they want. I think it has speeded up the game because they can't play their music and they have to get up and get in the box. But there's ways around it, which we always figure out real quick. Whether it'll stay, I don't know. But it's speeded up the game a little bit. I do like that. But it's a non-factor.
What do you say we make it a successful Cinco de Mayo with a victory tonight?
You know what? We can't win the rest of them until we win tonight. So that's the way I always look at it.
Right on. Rick Sweet, my guest, Sky Sox manager. More to come from Memphis right after this.